forward to it.
All rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilman Cullen.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
Here.
Councilwoman Hudak. Here. Supervisor Hay.
Here. Notation at exits in the front and the rear. Any electronic device, please put it on vibrate or shut it off. The first item on the agenda this evening is a public hearing. The first one is for the local law, Chapter 138 zoning, outside storage. I waive the reading of the notice of the public hearing.
I'll
So,
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone that wishes to speak to the Chapter 138 outside storage, please come up to the mic, identify yourself by name.
Do you mind, can we put Ashley on the spot to just, as usual, give a little,
Okay. You really put her on the spot. We didn't
Yeah.
even
As
tell
long
her.
as you're here.
She's still young and remembers things, so.
Okay, so what you have before you this evening is a draft local law to allow outside storage as a permitted accessory use in, let's see, in the GC1, GC2, HC1, OP3, and RC zoning districts. And what that would do is it would allow 5% of your lot area to be used for outside storage as a permitted accessory use. If you did not currently have outside storage on your lot, any new outside storage areas would require site plan approval. It also proposes to add 5% as a conditional use of outside storage to NB1, NB2, and SR22. It also makes some text changes to how outside storage is regulated. It would allow the planning board, where there currently is some special permit criteria or conditional use permit criteria in the code that requires screening and landscaping around outside storage areas. What it does is it allows the planning board to permit the installation of a fence that exceeds the maximum height requirements within the setback area up to 6 feet tall, provided that the fence does not cause a health, safety, or traffic risk and would improve the appearance of the outside storage area. And that provision is intended to allow additional screening in areas where it might be too tight to add trees or a berm. The other area that is proposed to be amended is in the definition of outside storage. And the definition of outside storage currently includes the parking of passenger cars, vans, or pickup trucks. Like if you had a deli that had a delivery truck and you left your delivery truck there overnight, that would be considered outside storage. So this would exclude the overnight parking of passenger cars, vans, or pickup trucks and associated with the operation of the permitted principal use, such as delivery or maintenance vehicles, provided that such vehicles are parked on-site in approved off-street parking spaces furthest from public view. The outside storage or display of vehicles for sale shall be considered outside storage. So what this means is that if you, for your business, were parking a car or truck on your site, as long as you parked it in the back of your parking lot away from the street and it was in a legitimate parking space, that would not be considered outside storage anymore. However, if you had a car sales lot and the cars were for sale, that would still be considered outside storage. The way this is drafted right now is intended to be a quick fix to allow some of the businesses that are currently not in compliance and are have basically been zoned out of the town. This would bring them at least into compliance or allow them to proceed down a path of compliance. I believe, based on the comprehensive plan update, that the town is still considering pursuing an a special Route 6 zoning district, and that would probably further amend the definitions of outside storage, and there would probably be some additional regulations based on specific uses. But that will take a little more time to develop.
Which will start at the next meeting, by the way, under the work session.
Bless you. Thank you, Ashley.
Could we ask, I have a question.
You can ask a good question. Again, the public can speak.
Yes, I know it's for
moment.
the public, just
Okay.
quickly to clarify.
Sure.
If someone right now, if a business needs the 5%, are all businesses required then to come in for a site plan to get their 5%, or are they grandfathered? How is that going to work?
So if there's an existing business that has a site plan that was approved in 1980 that has outside storage, and it's not currently allowed on their site because it was zoned out,
Right.
this law would then essentially grandfather them to their originally approved site plan.
Okay.
What year
It-
did you say?
I just picked a random year
Yeah.
before
Oh,
Yeah.
so
before
1980 is
2004.
not the date?
No, it's not
No, no, no.
1980.
Oh, please don't do that. Okay.
Anytime before 2004, sorry.
Right. Okay.
If there's somebody who has a site that was never approved because it predated the original adoption of the zoning code, you would have to establish the baseline by going back through old aerial photos, which would be a little bit more challenging. But they would be approved to their original, basically, baseline.
If someone came in since 2004, I'll use my old business as an example, and you happen to mention a deli, and there happens to be a deli in my former building. Let's say, there was numerous items that were allowed onto the lot, okay? If the deli was not on the plan for outside storage, although they're a deli and they make deliveries and such, would they be allowed to do that? It was allowable by law at the time, prior to 2004, but it wasn't specifically stated.
I think it would sort of depend on what they're proposing to do. Based on this, if it was parking the deli truck outside, that would not need to come in. But if they were proposing, if a new use went into the building in a new tenant space, and they had something that they wanted to store outside, that would probably trigger site plan review.
And that also takes effect, in other words, every time someone new comes into any plaza, they have to go and obtain signs or whatever, and they would have to come in front of the ARB or whatever as well.
Any signage needs to go to the ARB. It depends on what they're doing, whether that would trigger site plan review.
And that comes to the building inspector, who
Yes.
makes that determination whether or not to take place or not.
Yes.
Okay.
And since the 5% is new for a lot of these areas, we can expect people will be coming in for a site plan review?
I would expect that we would have some people come in for site plan review. Anytime, if there was an existing business that wanted to make any changes to their site, that would automatically open them up to the planning board looking at the whole site and seeing where they can bring the site into compliance with the current code.
Now, there are numerous warehouses out on Route 6, okay? And they've actually have tenants that wanted to come in, and because they had outside storage, they've actually had to tell them no now for years. Okay?
Right, I understand that.
So, you don't have a warehouse without a need for outside storage. When you build a big building, not necessarily you want to park big trucks in it, you're either manufacturing something or you're doing something inside the building. Someone wanted to park, like the lights for doing road work at night. Okay, that would be considered outside storage, so
Right,
to speak.
So each business that wants to do something new on their site would have to be looked at a case-by-case basis to see what had been historically approved. If it's not clear, or if they're proposing something new, then that would trigger site plan review. But it would now establish a baseline of 5% would be allowed. And one of the big changes is that, especially on Route 6, outside storage is not a permitted use at all. So if they need any kind of outside storage, it's a use variance from the ZBA, which is very difficult to get. By establishing a baseline of 5%, even if they need more than 5%, they're now looking for an area variance, which is easier to get. Not guaranteed, but easier to get.
And historically speaking, the zone where it's at now had previously had that right. Unfortunately, it was taken away from them in 2004.
That's correct.
And Ashley, when we're talking about vehicles if someone has delivery vans or trucks parked, those don't count as part of the 5%, is that correct?
Right. Just to be clear, it's talking about delivery vans or pickup trucks, not large semi-tractor trailer trucks.
Or box trucks?
And not box trucks either.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone from the public to the issue?
Oh, one other thing, Tony.
No,
I'm
I said
sorry.
the public.
I know, but there is I think this is important to read for people about the wood mills and.
Yes,
Right.
so
Say it again.
it's proposed,
Oh,
also included in this local law is a new definition for wood mills, which isn't proposed to be added anywhere at this point in terms of the use table, but it's adding a new definition to the code of a wood mill, which is an indoor or outdoor, non-portable commercial facility which has as its primary purpose the production of firewood, wood chips, or mulch from the splitting, chipping, and/or grinding of wood for the express purpose of producing wood byproducts for use as firewood, landscaping material, or for other uses off-site.
Now, one of the reasons this has to be done as well, not just what we're doing now, but with the future of what we're gonna do with the comp plan, you have a nursery. And we would view trees and the bushes and mulch that they sell as outside storage of material.
Right.
So at 5% and you have a nursery, you're gonna need a lot more than 5%.
Right,
So
so that was,
we're gonna hopefully come up with a minimum on the board that's a minimum, and then there'll be special circumstances that they would have to go to increase it. So say I wanted to come in and have, I don't know, something, and I need, let's say we go from 5 to 10% as the minimum. Anything over the 10% would then go, they'd go to the planning board, identify the purpose, and if it happens to be a nursery, they say, well, 10% is not gonna make it. They need 50 or 60%, whatever it may be. So it depends on the business, and it would be reviewed by the planning board, the architectural review board, to make the determination to go over whatever number we set as the minimum.
right, that's the recommendation of the comp plan, is to have different percentages based on the type of use
So
that you
you
have.
can codify that.
Yes.
Yes. And that's to be determined, of course, by the planning board. Again, I hope we come up with a number. I think 5% is too small, 50 is probably too much, so we'll have a compromise, hopefully, but time will tell. Okay, now, let's go back to the public. No more.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you,
She's no
Ashley.
longer the public. Anyone? Okay, I'm gonna ask that we close the public hearing on the issue, but we'll leave a 5-day written period in case somebody wants to write. So with that, I make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is the 2015 budget. I make a motion to open the public hearing and waive the reading.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone to the 2015 budget? We have a big crowd here tonight, and we don't have any comments. That's a good thing. Seeing no hands raised, no one coming forward, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing and also give a 5-day written period for that as well.
I'm going to second that, and thank you, Tony, for working so hard on the budget. I think
My
it was.
job.
It was, I know, but I thought it was about as good as it could be, given our cap, which
Okay.
is a good thing.
Motion, did you second, you said?
I
Yes.
did.
All in
She
favor?
seconded and thanked.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, first item on the work session, discussion Crossroads 312 FEIS. Does the applicant have any representation here this evening? Ashley, you want to come up and give us a brief rundown of where we're at? Now, one thing I don't know if anyone in the public will say it, but we've received numerous letters about this not being posted on the webpage. It is not a requirement at this point in time. Once the FEIS is deemed complete by the town, it is required to be posted. So it'll be coming at some point in time, but at this point in time, it's not there and it's not required. We've asked, but it hasn't happened. So other than that, go ahead.
So as you know, all of the consultants have reviewed the revised FEIS, which was submitted on October 17th. We had a meeting on Tuesday with the applicant's consultants and the town's consultants and a couple of representatives from the town board to discuss the outstanding issues. At this point, we believe that we are pretty close to being able to declare the document complete. We are awaiting some revisions that are supposed to be emailed to the consultants over the next week so we can review them. We have received some of those comments already, and so progress is being made. In terms of the process, provided that all of the changes are received by the 13th of November, we anticipate that this could be placed on the November 20th agenda for consideration of completeness by the town board.
Now, are you going to make us aware at that time, so prior to me preparing the agenda for that evening, and hopefully if the board's in agreement, you will notify us if you feel it's deemed complete enough that this board passes? Not necessarily that it will pass, but you will notify us. Would the board agree to that, or you want to put it
Well-
on the agenda?
Well, my belief is that if Ashley believes that it is complete or believes it's incomplete or whatever advice that you want to give, that you can do so as quickly as possible. I was at the meeting along with Lynn, so from what I heard at the meeting, it appeared that there was an accord as to how we were going forward and how that the applicant is going to have to respond to the comments that were made by all of the consultants for the town. And what I mean by all, meaning you were there, Tom Fenton from the engineering was there, we had our wetlands specialist there, the applicant had all of his, or most of his people, or most of their people there. So my thinking at this point is it sounded like, through what I heard, is that the comments were going to be addressed in a timely manner. If there is something that occurs, I'd like to have your input, and I believe all the board members would like to have input. But the input is what I'm looking for, not as a determinative factor as to whether or not we're going to place this on the agenda on the 20th for a vote. It was my belief, leaving the meeting, that we were indeed going to put it on in the regular meeting for a vote. Absent you're saying that some calamitous situation has occurred, that's at least my intention, and I believe it was borne through by what I had heard from sitting at the meeting.
So,
And apparently they addressed some of the comments
They
already.
have already, yes.
Right.
we've
So that,
rec-
and the meeting was Tuesday.
Right, so we have received, and they addressed 2 of the bigger items already. So I'm expecting the comments to be emailed to me this week, so we can review them quickly and let you know as soon as possible whether or not they've addressed our concerns.
One thing I would like is, because there was I think a very important question that the engineer was addressing, I would feel more comfortable, not that I don't trust you, but hearing from from the engineer and from a wetlands consultant too.
You're talking about the infiltration issue?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the infiltration issue, I think everyone sitting there that day thought that it was the biggest issue that was left. It has to do with the fact that there was, I believe, that there was a 2013 change to some of the infiltration.
They are proposing to do infiltration on an area of slopes that exceed 15% naturally today. In their proposed project, that area of slopes would be decreased because of grading and fill. But it's not clear in the DEC manual that you're allowed to have infiltration on slopes in excess of 15% based on today. So that's what they are clarifying with DEC, and they're providing alternative diagrams if that is not approvable.
Right.
They'll have another way to go.
Correct, and my understanding was in the FEIS, right now in draft form, what has to be presented is what do they intend to do, what are the alternatives? And I believe that the applicant sounded like that was what was going to be provided. We had a nice technical discussion regarding it, and the fact that there would be alternatives presented.
Right. So I expect that once all the comments have been submitted by the applicant back to the town's consultants, that we will each of the consultants prepare a memo similar to what we have been doing to say if the comment's been addressed and if we have any other minor tweaks to it. But I would expect that at this point they would be able to address all the comments. And one of the things we did ask for was for them to send us the actual chapters, so we could do some inline text edits quickly and get them right back to them if needed.
okay, I still need direction. Now, the next meeting is November 20th. Prior to posting this on the web, I can make up the agenda. So prior to posting the agenda on the web, because, people will either come out or not according to what we have. So my direction. If I don't hear a positive from Ashley, or she makes a comment for it to go, do we want it on the agenda and post it if it's going to be an item or not? Are we going to pull it the night of the agenda if it's not ready?
I want to hear from Ashley. My belief right now, after sitting in the meeting, is that the comments are going to be addressed, and we will be ready to vote on the FEIS as a town board on November 20th. So I will be, at this point, after sitting at the meeting, that's my intention. If Ashley sends us a memo and says there is some disastrous or some calamitous problem, and I believe the only problem that they could have really is how they phrase this infiltration issue. A lot of the rest seem to be not as, I'm not going to say important, everything's important, but not as critical. Then at that point, I believe maybe I would reconsider the thought that this would be on the regular meeting for a vote on November 20th. So my intention right now is to say that this will be placed on the regular meeting for a vote on the completeness of the FEIS on November 20th. So that's where I personally stand on this.
And it's not unheard of that if they do have problems, that this is not acceptable right now. I mean, if everything isn't answered, we could still vote on it, we just wouldn't be voting in favor. And
Correct.
I have many, many questions, as usual, that I'm not, I'm not satisfied yet, but I do look to the consultants and want to hear. And I'm happy to know that we will not be faced with this again, and that it will be answered in the FEIS, so that the public, when they do get the document, will have a lot easier time than certainly I had, so.
Okay, so it's on November 20th meeting, and we wait, I at least wait for your comment.
As soon as we get the items, we will let you know.
I think we're all waiting for the comment. It's just that I want to make it clear that this process has taken a long period of time, and once again, I was at the meeting where it appeared that there was a lot of accord between our consultants and primarily Ashley regarding what was being presented as responses to that which you had pointed out to the applicant, including but not limited to the integration within the entire FEIS document of all the different comments. So on this, sitting at that meeting, it appeared that there was a great accord, and unless the applicant's consultants come back with something that is completely different than what was stated and completely unresponsive, I believe that the FEIS we're prepared to vote on that FEIS. And as Ashley has stated before, there is still a very long process that's associated with this Crossroads application. I believe that it is a long, long process. And the only other thing that I'd like to mention tonight, Ashley had provided the town board with a very comprehensive and explanatory memo regarding the rest of the process, actually a small history, what has happened in the rest of the process. And one of the issues which will also be coming up more likely than not at the November 20th meeting is a discussion and/or a vote on the zoning amendment. And if Ashley, if you could just, I don't want to read your memo when you
Sure.
could probably do better on that one.
Now, that's going to take place November 20th as well?
You have to.
It would have to be after the 20th.
That's what I
So
thought.
once the FEIS is accepted as complete, the town board has 10 days from the filing of the FEIS to issue a minimum of 10 days from the filing to issue a finding statement. So the filing of the FEIS is triggered by when they've printed and mailed all the documents and the document is posted online. That's when the clock would start for the 10 days. So once that 10 days has passed, and that date is sort of to be determined because it's completely variable on the applicant and their production schedule, then you could issue the finding statement. You could potentially vote on the zoning petition the same night as you issue a finding statement if you choose. What I've outlined in the memo are the changes that were made to the zoning amendment since the DEIS public hearing. Some of these items are substantive, but I believe that they were all in response to public comments, and they were all issues that were discussed at the public hearing. So if you chose to hold a public hearing, you could do so.
And when you say that it was matters that were discussed at the public hearing, in fact, the zoning amendment has created, how did you say it? It's, the changes in the zoning amendment are basically less than that which was originally asked for.
In relation to the 10% waiver that they'd originally asked for, after reviewing that and discussing with the applicant, we found it difficult to establish what 10% means. So instead of proposing 10%, we've asked them to provide a hard number on what the maximum waiver of the height of the retaining wall or the length of the retaining wall would be, and they're going to be providing a revised zoning petition to the town board that includes that revised language. So I don't have the exact numbers in this memo because I haven't gotten the petition yet.
And you said that because of the substantive changes, that there can be another public hearing?
There
Is that
can be
correct?
another public hearing if you choose to hold one,
And it's not mandatory.
but it's not mandatory.
And it's items, the changes as anticipated were the subject of the public hearing that was held in October.
Right,
October
I can
24th.
quickly go through the changes if you would like.
Sure.
Okay. So one of the changes that was made in several locations, and this was something that was proposed initially, was that under this proposed law, the approval for site plan and special permit, well, special permit's already been with the town board, but site plan would be transferred for large retail establishments from the planning board to the town board. And one of the comments that was raised during the DEIS was that, well, what about subdivision and wetland permits? So they have now clarified that all discretionary permits would become the purview of the town board. They have not removed the recommendations to the ARB or the planning board. That would still occur. So that clarification was made in several locations in the code. The other issue we went over was the 10%. One of the other big issues or big changes is that a hotel motel conference facility is proposed to be added as a special permit use in the HC1 zoning district. That is a new addition to the zoning petition, but that is something that was discussed at the public hearing and was included as an alternative in the DEIS, and it's also consistent with the comprehensive plan update. And so those are the, and one more addition would be and adding a note U that would permit a hotel, motel, or conference facility to be a maximum of 4 stories or 50 feet in height, which is higher than what is currently allowed in the zoning district, which I believe is 2 stories.
I think it's 3. Is it 3 or 2? It was maximum height 30 feet?
30, it might be 35 in that, but
It is 2 stories and 35 feet.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we'll put it on for the 20th and follow your outline there for the future of it. Any other questions here? Anyone from the public? Okay,
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Ashley. Seeing none, I'll make a motion, we go into the regular meeting portion of the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The first is a resolution to establish the Birch Hill Highview Terrace Water District. Resolved, A, that the notice of hearing was published and posted as required by law and is otherwise sufficient. B, that all property and property owners within the proposed district are benefited thereby. C, that all property and property owners benefited are included within the limits of the proposed water district. And D, that it is the public interest to establish said water district, be further resolved and determined that the establishment of the Birch Hill Highview Water District and the construction of any necessary improvements to the existing water system serving the residents within the proposed district are deemed to be an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA, and that is hereby declared that such action is not likely to have an adverse impact on the environment, and be further resolved and determined that the district will assume control of the existing water system which is being conveyed to the district, no cost to the district or to the town of Southeast, and shall be free and clear of encumbrances, and be further resolved and determined that the maximum amount proposed to be expended for the improvements is $135,000, and the estimated project cost of the typical property owner with the proposed district is $1,100 per year. And be it further resolved and determined that the Birch Hill Highview Water District, encompassing the several lots, parcels, and pieces of real property described in Schedule A, is hereby established, subject to approval of the Office of the New York State Controller, and be further resolved and determined that this order and resolution shall be subject to a permissive referendum and provided by the town law of the state of New York, and further resolved and determined that the town clerk be and is hereby authorized and directed to publish a copy of this resolution in the official newspaper of the town of Southeast forthwith, and upon the passage of 30 days after the adoption of this resolution, and no adequate petition for referendum having been filed, shall file a certified copy of this order and resolution with the office of the clerk of the county of Putnam, which is the county in which the said town of Southeast is located, and in the office of the State Department of Audit and Control within the required time by law. So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? We did receive some comment from someone within that district about the amount. We can always go lower, but we can't go higher by what we have. We have looked at some of the things that the gentleman recommended, and I believe either next Monday or Wednesday, we're going to meet with the Department of Health to go over any concerns that they might have. Will, you're aware of that? Did you get the email okay?
I didn't get that. Was that something you sent out today?
No, I sent it, I think, yesterday. Anyway, I'll follow up with you tomorrow. So we're going to have, again, we'll meet with the Department of Health just to see what their concerns are and discuss the items that gentleman had made. Any other discussion, board? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, and Schedule A, by the way, is just a list of the 24 property owners that it affects. There's 17 from the original districts and 7 additional, so a total of 24. Second is a resolution to the Grace Assembly of God special permit application. Now therefore be found and determined that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby makes the following findings of the fact in connection with the instant application. 1, the proposed use is in such location and is a size and character that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the surrounding district. It will not be detrimental to any immediate site or adjacent properties provided appropriate conditions and restrictions are made a part of the grant of a special permit. 2, the location and size of the proposed use, the nature and intensity of the operations involved are conducted in connection therewith, its site layout, and its relation to access streets would be such that the pedestrian and vehicular traffic to and from the use and the assembly of persons in connection therewith, I like these words, will not be hazardous provided appropriate conditions and restrictions are made a part of the grant of a special permit. 3, the exterior appearance will not hinder or discourage the development and use of adjacent land and buildings provided all reviews and approvals of the Southeast Architectural Review Board are incorporated in any final improvement of the project. And 4, the proposed use will not require such additional public facilities or services or create fiscal burdens upon the town greater than those which characterize uses permitted as a right. And be further found and determined, 1, as proposed, the buildings or structures are not set back from front, side, and rear property lines 300 feet as required by section 138-55.1A of the zoning code. 2, as proposed, the parking facilities are not set back a minimum of 200 feet from adjoining residential properties as required by section 138-55.1B of the zoning code. 3, as currently proposed, an environmental conservation buffer of 50 feet has been provided as required by section 138-55.1C of the zoning code. 4, as proposed, the outdoor public address system would not carry beyond the limits of the site at greater decibels than would be inherent in the ordinary residential use of a property and required by section 138-55.1D of the zoning code. 5, as proposed, there is no request to reduce the parking requirements as allowed by section 138-55.1E of the zoning code. 6, as proposed, site lighting will not project into surrounding residential properties as required by section 138-55.1F of the zoning code. At a proposed, there is no steeple, minaret, or other structure that will exceed the normal height of structures permitted within the residential zones as regulated by section 138-55.1G of the zoning code. 8, as proposed, no playground equipment will be located within 200 feet minimum setback from residential structures within the residential district as required by section 138-55.1 5.1H of the zoning code. And be it further resolved that based upon the foregoing finding, the town board of the town of Southeast hereby denies a special use permit to the Grace Assembly of God in connection with the subject premises on the grounds that that the applicant has not demonstrated compliance with the special conditions set forth in sections 138-55.1A and B of the zoning code. And be further resolved that due to this irregular shape and other environmental and geographical characteristics of the subject premises, making it impossible to fulfill all special conditions required of houses of worship located in residential zoning districts, and pursuant to the authority set forth in Town Code 138-52B, the town board hereby grants leave to the applicant to seek relief from the provisions of 138-55.1A and B from the Zoning Board of Appeals of the town of Southeast within the time required by law. And be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to the Grace Assembly of God, owner of the subject premises, the Secretary of the Town of Southeast Planning Board, and the building inspector for the Town of Southeast forthwith. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Now, what this means, ladies and gentlemen, is it's a place of worship. There's special rules and regulations. In this particular case, the special permit requirements cannot be met by the applicant. What we are granting here, we are denying the applicant's request for that special permit this evening, but we are sending them to the Zoning Board of Appeals where they can make their case heard. Anyone else? Okay. With that, roll call vote?
Councilman Alvarez.
So voting yes is that we're accepting this and basically denying,
We're denying and
Right.
sending it to the
So-
ZBA.
Send them to the
Yeah.
ZBA.
yes.
Councilman Cullen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hudak.
Yes.
Supervisor Hay.
Yes. Good luck. We'll send you a copy as soon as possible. Okay, have a good evening. Number 3, resolution, erosion and sediment control bond, Brewster Town Center wastewater treatment plant upgrade. Resolved that the bond amount shall be established for the project set forth below. Project name, Town Center wastewater treatment plant upgrade. Site improvements, $164,800. Erosion and sediment, $13,200. Resolved that a certified copy of this resolution shall be transmitted by the town clerk to the planning board, secretary, and building inspector forthwith. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 4, a resolution, certiorari settlement, Nesson, N-E-S-S-O-N. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast does hereby accept the recommendations of the professional advisors and authorize the town attorney to execute a stipulation of settlement, consent judgment, and/or order of consent in accordance with said recommendation for the following. The petitioner is Nesson, N-E-S-S-O-N. Tax ID 67.35-1-16, year 2001, assessment 820. Say it again?
2011.
What did I say?
2011, 2001.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm trying to go back in time. I had so much fun back then. Okay, sorry. Year 2011, assessment 821,000, settled assessment 630,000. Tax ID number 67.35-1-16, year 2012, assessment 821, settled assessment 650,000. Your sheet has a different number, but write in as I say it. The next one is 67.35-1-16, year 2013, assessment 821, settled assessment 675,000. And be further resolved that the town attorney is hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all stipulations, consent orders, or other documents necessary to reflect the foregoing settlements. Lori, thank you for your help on this. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 5 on the agenda, we are setting a public hearing for November 20th for Southeast Parking at 7 p.m., 1360 Route 22. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
With that, recognition of the public. Up to the mic, please.
settlement was about?
Say it again?
The-
What people, okay, the settlement,
Yes.
people sometimes challenge our assessments, things change, and they go back and review in time what it was. And in this particular case, the assessor reviewed the record and settled with the applicant accordingly.
Okay. Any history on it, or?
No, I don't know the history, but, I mean, sometimes a building may be vacant, you know, we may be unaware of that or whatever. I don't know if, do you need any further clarification? I get-
Just wondering if there was something more.
No, these come up every so often. People challenge their assessments, many get settled. This is very reasonable, you know, considering, so.
Thank you. The other comment was I would hope that the town board would have a public hearing on any zoning amendment changes. I know that that's under discussion whether you have to or not, but in regards to the Crossroads project, if there is going to be a zoning amendment, I would hope that you would have a public hearing for it.
Okay,
Thank you.
duly noted, thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
John.
Anyone else from the public? Anyone on the board beside Ms. Eckert? No, okay.
I have nothing, I got nothing. I've said my piece.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Edwin!
Me again?
Who's gonna second?
I'll make a
second
motion
it.
that we close tonight's meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
coming this evening.
Thanks, Ashley.
That was good.